I have a problem with the amount of doctors, especially female doctors, that are out there telling us women that unless we take hormones, we're basically screwed. And I myself, I'm 49, almost 50. And yes, do I feel that my hormones are changing? Of course I do. Hasn't been too bad, but I definitely feel, yes, things are changing. And so a couple years ago, I started to really dig deep into the inquiry of, do I need HRT? What does it even entail? How does it work? Etc., etc. So for the past 3 years, I have not yet taken anything. I will shortly tell you what I have been doing and what has been working incredibly well. But I started researching, and even though, I am a practitioner and I've been working with regenerative protocols for many years, helping many of my clients to heal from severe autoimmune conditions and all kinds of kind of hopeless situations. But that is different than working with hormonal imbalances and hormonal challenges. It is slightly different. And I have to admit, I thought that because I had done so much detoxification and so much regeneration and I had healed so much myself, I really was quite sure that when I would hit perimenopause, as I have, even though I'm not in menopause, I still have my regular cycle, but definitely I am in perimenopause. And when things started to change, I wasn't prepared for that because I really felt that because of my history of regeneration, I would just, glide through it. Well, that wasn't the case. And uh, I can also see why not. It's because in some ways my regeneration process, really only started when I was 40 years old. Until 40, I mean, when I was 40, I was bedridden. So, at 40, really my health completely collapsed. Not that it was ever in peak at any point in my life. So only after regeneration did I experience, oh, wait, this is how wonderful one can feel in a body. And I then thought that, menopause, perimenopause wouldn't touch me. Well, when things began to shift and change, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And definitely, even though maybe you can say my symptoms weren't as bad as for some people, for me they were still hell enough to call them hell. And so I decided, okay, I need to know about hormones. I need to go deep into this. I need to understand. And the more consults that I started having with oftentimes world-class experts that I would have to wait for months and months to have an appointment with, and which I paid for, so I mean, this was really for me. I was doing research, but I was also really going, for myself. And what has been deeply disappointing in this process is to see how many doctors, especially women, would staunchly affirm, and men anyway, that, oh, unless we take hormones, you're going to be screwed. And some of the women out there, that have YouTube channels that are very, very popular, even going as far out as saying we need the highest dose of estrogen, the highest dose of everything, because that's the only way that we're going to be youthful. And there were even short moments on my journey where I contemplated believing them, where I was like, okay, well, I mean, these people are the experts, what do I know about hormones? And especially not being a trained medical doctor, it's so easy to doubt your own knowing. But it kept feeling not right. So anyway, long story short, I looked into Russian peptide bioregulators and I dove into the studies there, and I had a gazillion of consults and interviews, etc., with various doctors and manufacturers of peptide bioregulators to ultimately try them. And these, the peptide bioregulators, completely natural. They're not hormones, they are regulators, they are gene switches, up regulators. And I was amazed because literally within, not even in my case, yes, maybe because of all the work that I've done before, literally within 3, 4 weeks, all of the symptoms that I was experiencing were gone, completely gone. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm back. I feel better, more stable than even before. And that was that. So that was the first wake up call. But since then, I have continued with my research, and I'm not done with my research. And I'm, really going far and wide because I'm now at the place where it's like, okay, I really want to, find new ways of not just helping myself, because I know that the hormonal journey continues, but I want, of course, everything that I do for me, I'm also going to bring to other women. And what I find very disturbing is, like I said, this weird, I don't know if it's an agenda, but this story that keeps being repeated that as women, we are actually not supposed to really get much older than our reproductive years. Really? Like, where on earth does that story come from? And I've heard it from women, I've heard it from men, and there is no data that confirms this, and it's simply not the truth. So somewhere this regurgitated story is circulating, and it's completely wrong, because I mean, we clearly have more than enough examples of women, even though they are still rare, but there's more than enough women that are in perfect health, well into their 80s and 90s, and even more and more women that are healthy in their late 90s, and still early 100, without hormones, that never took a single hormone. So to say, unless we take hormones, we're going to find ourselves in diapers and wishing that we had taken hormones, which is the exact words that I heard from a doctor. I'm sorry, that is simply not the truth. But the more research that I am doing in this field, the more that I am finding that we can absolutely support ourselves naturally, and that taking hormone replacement is simply not all that it is made out to be. Now, as with many things out there, ultimately, we need to choose for ourselves. But when I hear women claim that taking hormone replacement, is a step towards empowerment, self-empowerment, no, it's not. It's a step and a choice that some of us, are going to want to make at some point, and that's totally fine. But to call it an empowerment step, that's, again, there's some agenda that's running there, that is simply not accurate. Empowerment means understanding, why does our body respond with a kind of, nightmare during perimenopause and menopause? Well, there's several reasons. One is because our adrenals and endocrine system are really weakened, and of course this from generations and many years of leading a toxic lifestyle, not because it's our fault, but because we didn't know any better, and because we live in a world that is bombarding us with toxicity, and oftentimes not just physical toxicity but emotional toxicity. Some of us have dealt with extreme trauma in our lives, PTSD, etc., etc. All of that severely affects our endocrine system, and the capacity of our endocrine system to function properly, and therefore to regenerate on a hormonal level the way that we should. So chances are, if you're in a hormonal shitstorm, it's simply because it's been coming for a long time on an endocrine level, but also because our livers are deeply degenerated, our kidneys are weakened. Those are all key factors, key players that are going to determine how well we're going to ride through the process of perimenopause and menopause, which in an ideal world should go smooth and seamless. And we see that a lot of other um, ethnicities, other than women in the West, they do quite well naturally, through perimenopause and menopause, and they're not on any kind of hormones. So why is that? Well, it's because of the more severe degeneration and toxicity and levels of stress, goes without saying. So we can absolutely help ourselves naturally, and of course, the sooner the better. And I would say, really focus on the regeneration of your adrenal glands, really focus on the regeneration of your hypothalamus pituitary pineal gland. That is where the peptide bioregulators are incredibly helpful. And the sooner you begin that treatment, the better. It is natural, it is regenerative, it is not taking anything away from your own glandular capacity. To the contrary. Similarly, nutritionally, we're bombarded with this idea, oh, we need so much protein, especially as we age. We don't. The only reason why we do is because protein synthesis is impaired, and is no longer working the way that it should. And what we need to do rather is focus on rehabilitating protein synthesis. How do we do that? We do that through peptide bioregulators. So on one hand, working with the regulators, on the other hand, working with powerful herbs and effective herbs, because most formulations are too weak to actually drive us into true regeneration. They just kind of keep us there hovering without ever taking us into true regeneration. And the third element is we need to regenerate the key organs, which is liver and kidneys. And of course, the digestive system kind of, goes without saying, because it is part of every single function in the body. If our digestive system is impaired, we're going to feel it everywhere. And besides the bioregulators and enzyme therapy, there is plenty of herbal and homeopathic remedies that work extremely well that have helped a lot of women come off HRT, which sometimes can be a godsend, but sometimes can just be an additional fuel to the nightmare that women go through. It doesn't work for everybody. And we mustn't forget that working with HRT, with hormone replacement therapies, is weakening the rest of the endocrine system as well. And as I said, it does not come completely without risks. It simply is not true. And again, some women tolerate it very well, and can reach old age and still be on it, and they'll be fine. But it's simply, but to blanket statement and say there's no studies saying that it is risk free is not true. So we need to be, I'm here, I don't mind, whatever your choice is going to be, that's totally fine. And I honor everybody's choices, but I'm here to create a clear picture as to what is really going on. Why do we have a nightmare in perimenopause and menopause? And besides the physical symptoms, or the physical reasons rather, there are also psycho-emotional and psycho-spiritual reasons why we may go through hell in menopause and perimenopause. We know that in perimenopause and menopause, we go through a lot of ups and downs emotionally, and all the things I'm sure you've heard of, anxiety, and just kind of like wanting to leave your family, and like all the things. But that is part of our spiritual growth and spiritual evolution. So it's not a sign of something is going wrong. It's actually, no, it's a prompting to evolve, to mature into a new phase. And the maturing and evolving on a spiritual, emotional, psycho emotional level doesn't happen smoothly. It's not like, ooh, I'm a new version. No, before any breakthrough, there's gonna be a breakdown. But instead of pathologizing it, if we understand it and we know what is going on, then we don't need to experience it as a nightmare, but rather we can experience it as a necessary awakening, as a humbling, beautiful process of really cracking open to the next level of actual aliveness. And in the process, everything that we've been suppressing, all desires, all really typically it is all about suppressing desires, suppressing our playful side. That is the pain that arises during perimenopause and menopause. And it is there creating a nightmare for us so that we can feel it and crack open and go, okay, I am going to claim my life. Instead, what most of us do is we get squished by it, and we allow those feelings to kind of go, oh well, I guess I'm old now, I guess my time's over. And then we kind of find substitutes and or suppress further by taking hormone therapy, etc. Whereas no, in my experience, this is like your most radical time for real aliveness to emerge. You're done. I mean, yes, my kids are still teenagers and I'm still, of course, their mother and mothering them, but they're teenagers. They're now grown, and they are growing, and they don't need me as much as they used to. I've done all of that, and now there's a reclamation of, hang on, who am I as a woman? Who am I here to be? What is my full blossoming calling forth? What is the desire that is calling me, that is awakening inside of me, that is wanting, that is kind of actually calling me by the ear and going, feel this, do you feel this? And instead of going like, oh well, I'm now not that 50 is old by any means, but we do tend to kind of like go a little bit into suppression, and it's easy to do. But when we are able to read the signs, we can use this period not just to fully blossom into our best time physically by taking full ownership of where we're at, and then looking at how do we take our body from this state of dis-ease, where there's work left undone, to the next level of ease. And the same thing goes on a psycho-spiritual, psycho-emotional level as well. So there's a lot more to be said on this topic, and at the moment, as you may hear, it is one of my favorite topics, and I really feel that this topic is still so vastly misunderstood. And at the same time, I'm so excited and hopeful because there are so many incredible tools to take us to the next level naturally, and or with a little bit of help from peptide injectables, peptide bioregulators, and many other things that can take us to the next level without really fully interfering with our natural processes. So I'm going to be talking much more about this, and soon I will launch a completely new revolutionary women's hormone balancing protocol. And I will also invite you to come along with me on a powerful retreat, which, yes, is going to address the internal changes that are happening from a psycho-spiritual level, but also going into powerful regeneration with cutting-edge protocols and the best of regenerative holistic medicine. So if you're interested in this, there is going to be a link in my link tree where you can sign up for when these new programs will launch, and especially the retreat, which I'm really looking forward to launching still before the end of the year. And yeah, it's actually, I find, the most exciting time for a woman. I mean, all times are exciting. It's exciting to be a teenager. Boom, done that. I don't want to go back there. And it's exciting to become a mother. Boom, done. I don't want to go back there. I mean, I love being a mother and I still love it and all the things, but I've done that. I'm coming out of that intense period. And now being in this period where I'm in perimenopause and I can feel hormones are shifting, but things are just beginning to get really, really good in all ways. So I don't want to go back. I don't want to become a younger version of myself. I simply want to be the best version of this woman that is birthing herself into the next phase. And I invite you to come along on the journey, on this beautiful ride, and to really empower each other to become the best versions of ourselves and to really fulfill our life to the fullest in all ways, because that is what I feel this whole process is about. It's about full maturation, full expression, and full reclamation of who we came here to be. If this is inspiring, sign up and join me on my ride. Sending you all my love.